Welcome to SIM-PAC Live, where the rubber meets the road. I'm your host, Jeff Matthews, and today I interview Shaun Mooney, the Executive General Manager Commercial of the Port of Melbourne. The Port of Melbourne has recently announced a collaboration agreement with 7 partners to explore the commercial feasibility of establishing a green methanol bunkering hub at the Port of Melbourne. Welcome, Shaun. How are you today?
Yeah, good, thanks, Jeff.
Yourself? Thank you for coming on board. I'm excited about this conversation because shipping, global shipping, even coastal shipping, is one of the hard to abate sectors. The routes to decarbonisation are limited. They look expensive, and they provide difficulties in all across the whole chain. The main 4 routes being explored at the moment are biofuels. Although it seems an expensive route and aviation may need to suck up all the biofuels we can make. There's methanol, green methanol, which we'll come back to. There's green ammonia, which has its problems in terms of storage because it's explosives, as we found out on the other side of the world. And there's electrification, which seems to, they've actually got the first electrification routes up and running in China, where they've got battery swap technology happening halfway, where I think it's 44 containers worth of batteries get uploaded and offloaded on the ship. But it's really exciting. Australia's making the Port of Melbourne's making the first inroads or the first steps towards decarbonisation of shipping via green methanol. Tell me about, you've recently signed an MOU, you've got some partners on board. Tell us what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Jeff, as you surmised, it is a really difficult to abate sector, and what is probably most likely in the future is, it won't be a one-size-fits-all solution. But at the moment, when we talk to our customers, which are the shipping lines that visit Port of Melbourne, convincingly they're telling us, green methanol is their future fuel for the moment. It may not be their ultimate fuel, but certainly overwhelmingly a significant majority of the shipping lines that visit Port of Melbourne having new vessels built right now that will be powered by green methanol. So I guess in those conversations, it became really apparent to us, and I guess the properties of methanol are such that, those international shipping lines will need to bunker somewhere else than where they have traditionally bunkered. So today, most of the vessels that visit Australia will do their bunkering or filling up with fuel in Singapore. Because methanol is approximately 2.5 times as voluminous as traditional marine fuel, they need to either increase the size of the tanks on those new vessels, or they need to establish bunkering infrastructure in locations other than Singapore so they can effectively bunker mid-route. So for us in Melbourne, it's a great opportunity to partner with all of the participants in that future supply chain to establish what we think will be a really important hub for the future fleet that visit Australia. And I guess, the
cool.
MOU...
And you're Australia's busiest... Sorry, I cut over you. You're Australia's busiest port.
We are, in terms of container and general freight, we are the biggest port in Australia. So we handle more than 1/3 of Australia's container trade. So, we're a vital cog in, southeastern Australia. Significant majority of all freight for Tasmania comes through Port of Melbourne. There's freight from the Riverina area. So it is important that we create that hub so that vessels can efficiently continue to service the trade that everybody in the community relies on.
Right. And sorry, I interrupted you. Tell us about the consortium of partners that you've got on board, and where's this methanol coming from?
It is really exciting because we have managed to, I guess everyone uses the word collaboration, probably overuses it, but I think as we do try and abate the difficult to abate sectors, collaboration is critical. And for us, we're really excited to have partnered with another 7 parties who, like us, see this as really important. So we've got 2 producers, and I'll go into them in a little bit more detail shortly. We've got 3 shipping lines. We've got Stolt Nielsen, who are a really big global. Not only do they ship bulk product globally, but they also store it in Port of Melbourne. So already we store methanol today, just not green methanol. So we've got those parties. We've got 2 shipping lines, so Maersk and CMA CGM, who are both really taking leading roles in the decarbonisation of the sector and getting new vessels built. And recently we've seen the exciting first voyage of Maersk's first vessel that is powered by green methanol. So we've got all participants in the supply chain that can help us in this feasibility project. And the 2 proposed producers, so we've got Able Energy, who are hoping to produce in Bell Bay, Tasmania, and also Hammer Energy, who will be producing in Western Victoria in the Portland region. So really exciting to have all of those stakeholders on board and to be working really closely with them as we try and establish what the bunkering arrangements need to look like over time. Initially it'll be 1 vessel visiting Melbourne, but then, building the scale necessary to support the increasing number of vessels over the next, short to medium term.
Yeah, and Tasmania and West Victoria, logical places. They've got hydro and wind in Tasmania and wind resources in Western Victoria. So, yeah, looking to turn that renewable energy into green methanol. And the bunkering, now you bunker or you facilitate methanol at the moment. It's green methanol. I'm assuming it's almost exactly the same technology that you would use to bunker it, or are you looking at separating it? Are you looking at different bunkering systems? What's the story there?
Answering those questions is a key part of our feasibility study. Really analysing, firstly, what does the demand for the product look like, and then what does the supply chain look like as the product moves into the Port of Melbourne? What do the storage requirements look like? And then lastly, but certainly not least, is, technically, how do you bunker the product versus the way that you would bunker traditional marine diesel? So they're all key aspects of the study that is presently underway.
And are you one of the leading ports in the world looking at this? Have you got any other ports that you can go and visit and look at, or are you right at the forefront of this in terms of cutting edge?
I don't think we're not leading. There are a number of ports that are ahead of us in terms of this journey. We think we're the first in Australia, but there are certainly lots of studies being undertaken. Singapore is a leader in this space. Other ports, Shanghai has a study underway. Rotterdam is a leader. So, the best ports in the different regions are certainly taking this seriously and are investigating their ability to safely bunker future fuels. Other ports are looking at fuels other than methanol, but for us, convincingly, our customers, the shipping lines, are saying, it's methanol at the moment. So that's where we're focusing our energy.
Right, and no push towards electrification. Batteries to run coastal shipping. Is that been raised by anyone yet?
No, not for the size of vessels that traverse the Australian coastline. There could be a role for smaller vessels in terms of electrification, but for us, our focus is primarily on this feasibility study. And I think electrification will have a role to play on certain size assets in the infrastructure space, but not the majority of our customers.
Right. And what do you see? There's a movement in the world that we've got to stop moving around so much. We've got to stop flying tourism, and we've got to stop shipping so much around. But Australia is an island; it is a long way away from places. What's your forecast for global shipping? Do you think we've hit peak global shipping, or we haven't even seen it yet? Because this is going to be a big journey to decarbonise this sector.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. But as you said, Australia is an island, and it is always going to be part of our future to have goods shipped to and from Australia. Our exporters rely on shipping to get their goods to market. But as the population of Australia increases, and Victoria in particular is growing significantly, our forecasting certainly has our volumes, our throughput increasing significantly out to 2050 and beyond. So our planning needs to take into account the forecast increase in trade, and in Victoria, that's significantly driven by population growth. So we certainly don't see it having peaked. We only see it increasing.
Yeah, and there's also an argument too that if Australia does become one of the industrial superpowers of a decarbonised world, which has the potential to, there could be a lot more manufactured or partly manufactured onshore in Australia. So you could see a lot more export, in theory, from the renewables Australia's got.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is an exciting opportunity for Australia because of our natural environmental benefits that we have, and the size of the country. We do have opportunities to produce future fuels, and I think it's an interesting time to be assessing whether companies continue to have their goods manufactured offshore, or whether some of them consider the impacts on supply chains that were experienced during COVID, and whether that forces them to rethink how their supply chain looks.
Looking forward to your project, what's the next steps? And are you going to keep the public informed? I'm assuming you're going to tell us the steps you go. What's the time frame you're looking at for anything to sort of pop out that might be exciting news for people like me and the ones watching who are looking at this decarbonisation space?
Timelines are obviously very much dependent on the ability of the producers to produce the product. So we don't expect any product to be available before 2026. And then it's a case of understanding the demand for the product. So when will Australia won't see the first vessels that are powered by green methanol, like the first vessel that's presently in service for Maersk. That won't be servicing Australia on day one, but we expect that the demand won't come prior to the product being available, so roughly 2026. So I guess over the next 12 months, we'll aim to have completed our feasibility study, and then to clearly understand the capability for us to provide bunkering. And then it's a case of understanding the commercials of what that looks like. It will be subscale at the commencement, I guess, and then how we deal with that complexity is one of the questions we'll try and answer with the participants in the study once we get through the technical aspects of the physical capability of being able to bunker vessels when they visit. Yeah,
and look, that's 2026 in terms of timelines. A lot of the stuff, it's very close actually, because I was talking to somebody yesterday about the timelines to get a gigawatt project up and running in Australia and just consented. No, talking 5 to 10 years. And OECD, the IEA put out this figure, just alarming, that average across OECD countries to install one overhead power cable is 13 years. And so and that puts us well beyond 2030, and that bit of the transition is being held up by consenting, and that itself is being held up by people, the NIMBY, not in my backyard. And so have you had any of that at the moment? People sort of not understanding methanol and going, oh my God, they're going to have methanol in the port? I mean, it is a little bit different than ammonia. And for those who don't know the differences, methanol is stable at air temperature, and it's currently used now, and it's while everything is flammable and explosive, it's non-toxic, which ammonia is, and it doesn't have that a potential to go bang as we've seen. So that's why I assume you've chosen that route, or the shipping lines of choosing that route.
Yeah, I think the shipping lines are very sophisticated counterparties in their own right, and we're being guided by their decisions. We're not technical experts.
Yeah.
Certainly because of our proximity, we're a inner city port effectively, where our port boundary is less than a kilometre from Collins Street, which is the main business street of Melbourne as a city. So we do need to be very careful about that. We're very mindful about that. But likewise, being located where we are, we have local communities around us, and the vessels that visit Melbourne, are emitting carbon at the moment. So anything that we can do to reduce the carbon that's generated by vessels that are visiting Melbourne is good for the local communities that are a key part of our business.
Right. Well, that's wonderful, Shaun. I think we've covered it all, and I look forward to watching your journey with interest. I wish you the best of luck. We all do. We need this, so we're hoping it'll come to fruition, and we'll start to see some of those ships come into port that are truly zero carbon, and that'll be a great thing. So thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Jeff. It's a really exciting project, and we're really passionate about it. So thanks for your time, and have a great day.
Okay, wonderful.
Thanks.